Dear Bob, I know that you and Mother are anxiously awaiting my advice as to whether you should try to get into the Naval Academy. I've deliberately taken a few days to think it over and have decided to tell you something of my 4 years there and then let you decide for yourself. The day I piled out of a bus at the Naval Academy, I realized that all the candidates were just average American boys, sons of farmers, bakers, bankers, ministers, and from every state in the Union. The guard told us where to check in, and we learned right there that midshipmen don't enter the yard. They come aboard the United States Naval Academy. Once inside the gates, the Navy became our world, a very happy one filled with cheerful fellow candidates. Our first stop was to get a complete physical examination. Physical fitness and good health is a must at the Academy. All we hoped here was that these two couldn't see each other. The eye test for color perception required us to pick out numbers hidden in color patterns of these cards. The figures stood out like a sore thumb once you saw them. I still remember taking the oath of office. It's one of the most dramatic moments in a naval officer's career.
Raise your right hands. Having been appointed midshipman in the United States Navy, you do solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which you are about to enter, so help you God.
I do.
Good luck to you.
We were carefully measured for our uniforms and were issued socks, shirts, jumpers, underwear, leggings, gloves, hats, and countless other items. It got so we could hardly count them, let alone carry them. And there were still blankets, pillows, sheets, and towels to get. We were assigned quarters in Bancroft Hall, named for George Bancroft, founder of the Naval Academy. They were roomy, well-lighted, comfortable. I shared my room with a swell guy from Oklahoma, and this is how our friendship was born. Once we donned the uniform, we were fourth-classmen, plebes. Uniform looks the same on every midshipman. But looking like a midshipman and marching like one are two different matters. We soon corrected that, and it taught us to be alert, quick in attention and motion. Then we went on to the Manual of Arms. We were getting to be pretty good and discovered that practice makes perfect. Well, almost perfect. Days went by before we had an opportunity to look over the place that was to become our home for 4 years. The fine buildings and grounds are among the most beautiful in the world. There's also dignity here, and something more. There is tradition. One feels it, senses it every moment. The word that describes Bancroft Hall is splendor. 40 acres of floor space and 3.5 miles of corridors make it the largest single dormitory in the world. Once inside the massive bronze doors, one's eyes follow the grand marble staircase that leads to Memorial Hall. Enshrined here are treasured paintings and statuary of naval heroes such as John Paul Jones, Fighting Bob Evans, David Farragut, Oliver Hazard Perry, George Dewey, James Lawrence, whose immortal dying words, "Don't give up the ship," still echo throughout the naval service. The chapel, which dominates the grounds, is known all over the world for the beauty of its architecture and magnificent stained windows. Beneath the chapel, in a hallowed crypt, are the remains of the immortal naval hero, John Paul Jones. Wielding his sword on the deck of the Bonhomme Richard, he shouted the famous, "I have not yet begun to fight," and snatched a great victory from near defeat. And there was the museum. It gave us a pretty complete history of our Navy, and thus our nation's history. Priceless battle relics and war trophies brought to life the epic of the American Navy from the days of its beginning. Upon this common mess table aboard the USS Missouri, Japan signed the Articles of Surrender, ending the Second World War. And there were the class rings, symbols of Academy days together. Ship models alone are among its most precious possessions. You'll see case after case of battle-scarred flags returned from missions to the four corners of the earth. Yes, the dignity of the Navy's heritage is all here. The Academy's educational halls are named in honor of American naval officers. History has made room for them among her heroes. Here we were instructed in courses from seamanship to jet propulsion and electronics. Studies designed to prepare us to man and later command fleets on the seas, above the seas, and beneath the seas. Many monuments dot the grounds. They are more than just stone, metal, or marble. In 1812, for instance, this baleful-looking figurehead was on the British frigate Macedonian, which was captured by the American frigate United States. And the Mexican monument, dedicated to naval officers who lost their lives in the Mexican War. This monument was inspired by the gallant action of naval officers against the Barbary pirates of Tripoli. The station ship, Reina Mercedes, referred to as the fastest ship in the Navy because it has been fast to a dock for 35 years, is a trophy of the Spanish-American War. One of the most impressive sights at the Academy is on Sundays, when the entire brigade of midshipmen answer church call. All midshipmen attend some kind of divine worship, either in the non-sectarian chapel or in a church of their own choice. The remainder of plebe summer was spent getting in the groove. From the instant we hit the deck at the all turned out, something new was being added every minute. We formed and marched to and from classes. Our good and faithful friend Chief Tecumseh, god of the 2.5, the minimum passing grade, stood by to accept our pre-exam prayers. The left-handed salute and a sacrificial shower of pennies to Tecumseh is supposed to help get one's grade up. In the rigging loft of Loose Hall, there are the mysteries of such knots as the fisherman's bend, the monkey fist, and the Bolden on a bite. It could be called learning the ropes the hard way. In other classes, we learned everything that a naval officer should know. Characteristics of ship design, the rules of the road, towing, anchoring, navigation, mooring, radar, gunnery, engineering. And then boats. Who said the era of steam has come to stay? A naval officer must be proficient in handling all types of boats. First, we were introduced to whale boats and learned to board and lower them without spilling ourselves into the drink. We were pretty clumsy with the oars, but we got the hang of it, and it became a great sport. Besides, it built up our bodies. Later, as upperclassmen, we handled trim little yawls and showed off a bit for our girls. The end of plebe summer brought the return of the upperclassmen from their summer cruise, and our academic year began. Alert minds and strong bodies are products of good food, a healthy environment, and proper medical attention. These go hand in hand at the Academy. You've probably heard that the academic grind is tough at the Academy. It's no tougher than the average college course leading toward a Bachelor of Science degree. Actually, the small size of each class or section gave us an advantage in having individual instruction. We were also given every opportunity to put into actual practice what we had studied in the classroom. For instance, delving into the mechanical mysteries of a modern diesel installation, or learning to operate one of the Navy's latest torpedo tubes. Then getting on speaking terms with 5-inch dual-purpose guns. We were always taught the things most needed in our naval career, such as how to handle a ship in a rough sea. We not only received instructions in handling surface ships and submarines, but were given a concentrated course in aviation. The hours devoted to aviation equal in time that given other academic subjects. Thus, we learned the importance of naval air power and how to integrate it with ground, surface, and undersurface units. Beginning with basic structure and design problems, we went through classes in aviation engineering, jet propulsion, gas turbines, communications, and primary flight training. If it's sports you're interested in, you'll find them at the Naval Academy. And in keeping with its high tradition, you'll find the champions. From fencing to football, from basketball to boxing, the Navy is noted for its top-notch performance. A leader in the winter sports program is the basketball team. Annually, it meets the best teams in the nation. During my last year, it earned an invitation to the National Collegiates at Madison Square Garden in New York. Boxing, which teaches a young man to take as well as to give, is another of the popular sports down Annapolis way. Aggressiveness, courage, and physical fitness play their part in molding a naval officer. In wrestling, probably no other school possesses the fine record of the Navy. The blue and gold grapplers won 4 out of 5 of the last intercollegiate championships, a tribute to top-notch coaching and conditioning. Handed down from the fighting days of old comes fencing, where agility and adroitness symbolize the skill so necessary for this precise sport. Whether a young man has an aptitude for any one particular sport, gymnastics provide the opportunity for the development of many talents. Here is presented the chance for one to perform as an individual with skill, grace, and precision. Demanding in its training, gymnastics serve as a yardstick in measuring the advancement of a man's physical ability. In the beautiful natatorium at the Academy will be seen some of the nation's finest collegiate swimmers. Leading universities send their swimmers against Navy mermen. Not only its varsity crew, but every midshipman passes highly rated tests to ensure his ability to perform well in the water. It would be incongruous for the Naval Academy not to have a crew and not to have a good one. In the spring, sliding through the waters of the Severn, can be seen many boats used in training the crew for their meets and regattas. No Navy man feels out of place in a boat, and so it's only fitting that the crew record stands at the top. The first Eastern Intercollegiate Sprint Regatta was held at the Naval Academy. For those who like the links, and who doesn't, a beautiful 18-hole golf course has been provided. Proving as apt on land as at sea, the Navy scored 5 successive wins over the Army golf team, thus pointing up their ability to handle a driver as well as a destroyer. Of course, no sports program would be complete without the American national game, baseball. Here in the Army-Navy game has demonstrated the fact that the Academy takes the diamond game seriously. In soccer, our teams prove their ability to adapt themselves to the English game, a game which calls for the use of the head as well as the feet. It is fast, spectacular, and demands the utmost in teamwork. One of the nation's favorite sports, tennis, gets its full quota of attention at the Academy. On these courts are seen matches between midshipmen and some of the brightest stars from the nation's colleges. Though the American Indians started it, the stick and the midshipmen became friends quickly, and lacrosse is now one of the biggest sports at the Academy. Rough, rugged, and demanding, it has become a great spectator sport as well. During my last year, we beat the Army and won the national championship. Usually culminating the spring sports and rounding out the year come the men who run, jump, vault, and throw, trackmen, who train against time, height, and distance. That they trained well and thoroughly is evidenced by the intercollegiate championship, which they are now defending. Great sprint men have graced this track, and in the field events, the Academy's strength has long been predominant.